Hey Bam here. Today I will show you how I built the Splitting Steel DeadEye character. This is not a budget build character. It's not a league starter either. So I invested around one mirror into my build. I would say it's probably worth more than that because I corrupted and crafted most of my gear. It's super satisfying to play and also it clears everything. So from Ubers to like super deep mechanics into maps, you can even delve. This build uses a Mage Blood as a starter, but since the economy is so weird and there's so many divines into the game now, it's actually pretty cheap. It's around 110 divine right now, but like you could make that into in few hours. So I would suggest if you don't have a Headhunter or a Mage Blood, try to get one, as they are cheaper than ever compared to the rest of the economy. Alright, now I'll explain what item I got piece by piece and tell you how to craft them. So first off, we have a couple of uniques. So for the Paradoxica, which is the best in slot, even if you have like a super juice, a triple implicit one weapon, it will come close to it, but not be as good as a Paradoxica. So you're looking for increase attack speed with whatever modifier, doesn't matter really. And then increase damage and chance to impale on it. And that's it. Of course, the better rolls, the better it is. For the body armor, Lightning Coil is pretty much the best in slot because of the 50% of physical damage taken as lightning. And you're trying to get +2 AoE gems. +2 to projectile also works because if you look at the tag of Splitting Steel, it has both projectile and AoE. Another implicit that is useful is reduce damage from crit or reduce any elemental. So this is a good one. +2 AoE and plus 4% reduced lightning damage taken. This is pretty good. As I said earlier, we're using a Mage Blood. Pretty much the best in slot for this build because having the increased effect on every elemental flask actually gives us more elemental resistance and also less of the fire, cold, and lightning damage taken. If you get an implicit with chance to get onslaught on a ring, you can actually swap this out. Right, so now we have a Nimis because we're using projectile, so most of the time like returning projectile is the best thing. And it fires projectile in random direction. You could get some better dexterity or something like that, but what I really needed is the increased projectile damage. The dexterity I didn't need it really. And then of course we have a +3 to all splitting steel gems on our replica Dragon's Fang flight. The increased mana reservation is actually super helpful, so if you can get up to 10, it's good. The resistance can be useful too, because even though we're using a Mage Blood with all 3 flasks of the element, it's actually hard to get to a high number of resistance. And of course, we're using Ralakish and Patience. Those are pretty much the best boots, I think, right now. Having the maximum number of charges, well, counting as having the maximum number of charges at all time is really OP. And then we got a +2 AoE gems. +2 to auras also work, but more on that in the gems section. So that's it for the uniques. And now for the rares, you actually need 14% chance to suppress spell damage on your gloves. Increased attack speed is really cool, but it's not necessary. In a high tier of chaos resist. And for the prefixes, we need life, and crafting increased damage during healing flask is cool, or you could unveil it. Now for our ring, we need to fix our accuracy somewhere, so this is where we're getting it. And crit multi is super useful, and also we need lightning resistance. Since we're using a lightning coil, it actually reduces 60 lightning resist, so this is where we're getting it. And then for the prefixes, again, high tier of life and craft non-challenging skills, -7. For the helmet, we need 14 spell suppression, increased mana reservation, and a high tier of chaos resist for the suffixes. And then life, again, highest tier of life possible, 8% chance of physical damage taken as fire. The other modifier, increased evasion and increased stun and block recovery, doesn't really matter. Well, the most important part is the shield, so you want to get the highest chance to spell suppress as possible. With a fractured tier 1 it would be better, of course. And we're trying to get +3 to maximum fire resistance and the high tier of chaos resist again. And then on the prefixes, just life and some evasion. But it's super important the +3 to maximum fire resistance because we're trying to stack maximum fire resist. Alright, now for this gem setup, we're using splitting steel, so getting a highest level possible is the best. 21 is good. If you can get 23 quality too, it's excellent, but it's not needed. The gem level is the most important part. And then we're having increased chance crit, crit damage, awaken brutality, awaken increase effect, and awaken vicious projectiles. Yeah, it could be better. I could have, like, let's say level 21 increased critical damage, which I don't have right now, but this is something you could do. This is the beauty of this build too. You can almost always get some upgrades. And then for auras, we're using Purity of Element, Grace, and Pride, all level 21 with a level 4 Enlighten. I know Enlighten level 4 are a high price this league, but if you can get one, it's actually super useful. And aside of that, we're using Dread Banner with Precision, but our Dread Banners actually cost us no life or mana. I'll show you why in a few minutes. And aside of that, in the gloves, we're using Blood Rage, Mark on it, and Sniper's Mark, plus Life Tap. The reason why I'm using Life Tap is that I wasn't able to use the Mark on it with the mana pool I had. If you can actually get more mana reservation, you could use an Enhance level 4 instead, but for now I'm using Life Tap. For movement skill, we have Leap Slam with faster attack and a Frost Blink to jump over some stuff like the Maven Beams. We're using Steel Skin on our left click and Purity of Fire. So Purity of Fire goes into your boots. The reason why is that we have, if I don't know if you remember, but on the implicit we have +2 to all auras or AoE, since the Purity of Fire has both tags, AoE and auras. The one or the other works. The reason why is that if we didn't have this, for example, we look at our resistance. If we didn't have the implicit, so it was level 19, we would have only 88 to all our maximum resistance. But we want to be at least 90%. So that's why at level 23, it's actually plus 5% to maximum fire resist. And we are using Ancestral Protector with Maim. And yeah, as always, the highest level the better. And that's it for the gems. Alright, now for the Ascendancy and the passive tree. So we're using the Primalist for the access to the charms, of course. So what we're looking for is +2 to maximum fire resistance. And then we can have some good stuff like here. Banner skills have no reservation. That's why I said it doesn't take any of our life nor our mana. And here again, +2 maximum fire resist, and Impale inflicts 1 additional hit. That charm is super pricey. Don't buy it. It's not worth the price, to be honest. It's a good... this is actually a good prefix, but don't worry, it's not needed. As long as you have +2 to maximum fire resistance, you're golden. Here again, we have +2 maximum fire resist and Culling Strike. They said it's not needed to get their prefixes. As long as you have the +2 to maximum fire resistance, you're fine. The other thing is just added damage, to be honest. Alright, now for our that which was taken. We're using again +2 to maximum fire resistance. Here I have projectile gain damage as they travel further. It's not needed. And adds physical damage if you deal a critical strike. It's actually pretty good, but as long as I said, as long as you have the +2 to maximum fire resistance, you're good. The other thing is just added damage. So the reason we're capping maximum fire resistance is because of that jewel, the melding of the flesh. If you read the bottom line, it says elemental resistance are capped by your highest maximum elemental resistance instead. So we're trying to get 90 maximum fire resistance. That way lightning and cold is also the same. But that jewel removes 70 to 80% to all elemental resistance and reduces our maximum by 4 to 6. Make sure you get one that has a maximum -4. That way you can actually get to 90. For our Watcher's Eye, we're trying to get 2 of the physical damage taken as cold, fire, or lightning when you're affected by purity of elements. For some reason, they just jumped up in price, like today. I don't know why exactly. And then I have 57% increased physical damage while using Pride. This is not needed. Again, it's just for added damage. Yeah, if those Watcher's Eye are too pricey, you could always just craft a rare with increased life and increased physical and crit multiplier. It would be fine. Alright. Now, why is this build immortal or close to immortal to its? Well, for a few things. We're using the immutable force and the blood notch combo with the mastery of stun threshold is based on 60% of your energy shield instead of life. And since we only have 22 energy shield, pretty much every hit will stun us. That way, what happens is that we have such a high increased stun and block recovery, it will, unless we get a bunch of small hits, you will not even feel it. And then you actually recover 60% of the damage you take from stunning hits. As I said, every hit stun. And then we use some recoup to get some of the missing life. So if we look here, we have 6 plus 6 plus another 12, so we have 24 percentage recoup. And then we get 10% instant leech. So we're at 95%. So 95% of the damage we're getting is actually instantly recovered. So that's why I said we're almost immune to hits. And yeah, this is the tech of this build. If you want to learn more about it, I will leave a link to a video in this description. Alright, we're using a lethal pride, so the most important thing with the lethal pride is get at least 5% of physical damage taken as fire. So when we have one here, and then we have one other here. And some other useful nodes are like this one, reduce extra damage from crits. And if your crit chance isn't max, isn't at 100%, this is actually super useful. That way you get guaranteed crit once you reach 100% chance to crit. And now we have some like generic stuff like increased physical damage, which is cool. Here we have 4% life, again, it's useful. And another increased physical damage. As I said, it doesn't really matter the others, as long as you have at least 2 physical damage from it taken as fire, then the rest can be either life, crit chance, or increased physical. So a few tips before ending this, make sure you get corrupted blood from somewhere, so it can be on any of your jewels, but you actually need corrupted blood, or else it will kill you, because this build is pretty much immune to hits, but to damage over time it's kind of weak. So you want to make sure you pick that up. If you're struggling with your resistance, let's say your chaos resistance or elemental resistance, remember you can get them from a few points from cluster jewels. So here, for example, I have 4 lightning and 4 chaos resist. And yeah, if you look at the others here, increased attack speed is actually cool, but here I have +4 fire, +2 to all elemental resistance. So you can see you can get some, it's not much, but for chaos resistance, for example, it could make the difference between like 65 or 67 and actually 75. So this is something you can do. So for the Pantheon, one thing you want to make sure is that you do not take Soul of the Brine King. If you take that, it will actually break the build because you need to be stunned on every hit and actually get your life back. If you take this, it will break it. And the one I prefer is reduced damage from taken from damage over time. As I said, the only thing that can actually kill us is damage over time, so you want to make sure you reduce that one as much as possible. And yeah, you can take the smaller ones too. And for the minor god, I like the increased physical damage reduction if you stand still. And it also gives you some life regeneration, so it's pretty cool. But you could work around any. But this, make sure you do not take Soul of the Brine King as it will break the build. I will leave the POB in the description. I just want to thank Magicarpfinder for helping me find this build. I had a blast on it. It was super awesome. If you have a lot of currency, I suggest you actually try this build out. It will not work on the next league because it's based off the charms. Last league it was possible to do this too with the tattoos, but yeah, this was such a blast. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully the build was clear enough. It's my first time actually making a build guide, so if you have any question, leave it in the comments below. And as always, take care, guys.